Welcome, everybody. I have a very special guest with me. I have Brynn Marchiando with me, who is a local trumpet player who lives here in Albuquerque and actually has quite a reputation here in town as a classical player. She is also quite the jazzer. And so thank you, Brynn, for joining me. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, Michael. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So you are a native of the state. Are you from Albuquerque? Is that, I mean, I'm just trying to make sure I understand because I've got mixed reviews here.
Oh, yeah, I am. I grew up here in Albuquerque, born and raised, and went away to school, but now live here permanently. Yeah.
Okay, so what high school did you go to and when did you graduate, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I was at El Dorado High School with John Sanks, and I graduated in, let's see, 2002.
Okay, John's such a great, God, such a great educator. So that's awesome that you were able to come out of there. So you stated on one of your bios that I read about you that your grandfather was a really, really big influence on your pursuit of music and that you were playing trumpet. So how so is that?
Well, he played ever since I can remember, and he wasn't a professional, but he loved jazz and played in the community band in Kansas City, where he lived. He played in a military band overseas when he was stationed in Corsica in World War II. So I can just remember hearing him playing recordings, and then when I started playing trumpet. Well, when I wanted to play music, I picked the trumpet because of him, obviously. And I was lucky enough to be in the school district where I went to John Baker Elementary, which was right next to Hoover Middle School, which is where Kent Erickson was the band director. So Kent took me on as a private student, and I was able to start very, very young. I started, I think, 7 years old. And it ended up that I took to it and I really loved it. And he let me come and play in beginning band, even when I was in elementary school. To get kind of a head start. So that was a huge part of it too, being influenced by my grandfather. And once I got able to read music and everything, we would play duets, my grandpa and I, whenever we'd visit in Kansas City, which was maybe twice a year. We would just sit down in the basement and play duets together. So his love of music was what really drew me to it. It wasn't really the trumpet. It was that he just had fun, you know.
Yeah. Well, and that's you know what, that's what it should be. It should be fun. It's, although most of us who take this up as a profession forget that part, so we always have to go back and we have to remember music is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be influential. It's supposed to be enjoyable. And sometimes, me too, we take it way too serious, and you know, you have to sometimes go back to, when was it fun, right?
Absolutely.
So you finished and you studied with Kent, and then you studied with of course you went to school with John and graduated from El Dorado. From there you went to the what is it, the Lamont School of Music in Denver, where you studied jazz studies. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I was very much a crossover player from the beginning. I loved both. I played in youth orchestra, AYS, but also played here jazz all around, and would jam at the jam session at the, what was it, Gulf Coast Eatery over there.
Yep.
When they have that Thursday night jam or Wednesday night, I can't remember. And so it was great. Like, I really wanted to do both, and Lamont was a great option for that because it was a small enough program you could do both.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I chose a jazz degree in the end, I didn't really choose it until probably junior year, but then you had to choose, am I going to take Schenkerian analysis or advanced jazz improv? Okay, I'm an advanced jazz improv. So I became a jazz major officially at that point, and then, you know, your recitals then indicate, you know, which degree you have too. So I got to do jazz recitals as opposed to classical recitals. But I played in the orchestra there. I played in all the ensembles, and my teacher Al Hood is amazing at both. He's a crossover player, and so his heart was in jazz, my heart was in jazz, but we could, you know, connect on the classical level too. And just in general trumpet playing, that's what an undergrad is generally about, is how can I get better at the pedagogy behind playing trumpet, right?
Right. So when did you finish at Lamont School? When did you graduate from there? Because we'll talk about the next school here in a minute.
So that was '06. I graduated with my bachelor's from Lamont.
Right. And then from there, you went to the New England Conservatory
Mhm.
and you got a master's degree in what? Trumpet performance?
Yeah, I think it's technically called trumpet performance. It was a classical degree. They had another degree that was like orchestral performance, but I think I got mine in trumpet. But I studied with the former principal trumpet player of the Boston Symphony, Charles Schluter, while I was
Wow.
there. So he, it was very orchestrally driven. Though he's a soloist too. I mean, he's done solo records and knows that repertoire. So, but I was lucky when I was there because there are actually 4 trumpet teachers when I was there. And so you could go and get lessons with all of these people, plus everyone in the Boston community. So it's just really rich with great players.
Oh yeah. And when did you finish? When did you get your master's? When did you finish there?
So I was there 2 years,
Okay.
and graduated in '08, and immediately after that was a fellow at the Tanglewood Institute.
Okay.
So that was really a great transition into like professional playing. And then I ended up taking the audition for the New Mexico Symphony like in August of 2008. So it was like that summer just really led up to the audition to come back to Albuquerque. And
Okay.
so I'll go into that now. Is like I was able to sort of transition pretty seamlessly from college into a professional life because I was runner up for the principal trumpet audition here when it was the NMSO Symphony Orchestra, and that was in 2008. And John, my husband, won that audition, which let his chair become open, which was third associate. And so I was given a 1 year there, and through a series of fortunate events, that became a permanent position. So
Very nice. So, well, you answered my question on why you came back and
yeah.
when you came back. So that is awesome. And it's too bad that the New Mexico Symphony Orchestra folded, even though we now have the Philharmonic. It really was sad that the NMSO ended up folding and the way it was. But due to those unfortunate events, we still have you here and we still have you as a resource, and you're a great resource. So you are quite accomplished as a trumpet player, because I was looking at some of your bio information and it says you were the runner-up at the International Trumpet Guild Jazz Competition in Bangkok in 2005.
Mhm.
You traveled all the way to Bangkok to be part of that competition. I mean, it sucks that you didn't win it, but I bet that was one heck of an experience.
Oh, it was amazing. And you know what? I was runner up, and I wasn't the sole runner up. Like we tied for second.
Oh,
Etienne Charles, he's amazing. He's this amazing New Orleans jazz trumpet player. He blew my mind. And then the guy who won, Alex Nguyen, he was a totally different type of jazz player too. So really just being in the company of 2 amazing and totally different jazz players, really, I mean, you win either way.
I bet. No, and that's something that I probably could never do. It says kudos for your level of playing. It's absolutely amazing. And you've done a whole bunch of stuff. You've done world premieres for ITG. You and your husband did a world premiere for a trumpet duet there not too long ago. I mean, that to be able to play for the International Trumpet Guild for their annual convention and to be part of all that just says wonders for your playing. Congratulations on that. That must be, I mean, that to me is amazing. I'm actually in awe for you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's certainly a highlight, certainly.
So now you mentioned before you are the associate principal trumpet player for the New Mexico Philharmonic. And so that is one of your jobs, but you are the principal trumpet player for the Santa Fe Symphony.
Yes.
So that's quite the job in itself. So what other positions, I mean, besides those 2, are you involved with anything else here in town or in New Mexico per se?
Yeah. Well, first of all, my position in the NM Phil has recently changed due to an audition I just won, which was the second trumpet audition. So in October of last year, I forgot to mention this to you, the position became open of second, and I thought, I've played a lot of principal trumpet, given associate in NM Phil and principal, and honestly, the amount of work would be a little bit more for second trumpet. You'd be called for more services, so it would be a step up in terms of that. I'd really love to play second on a lot of the rep I've already played, and I never really got to in my former position. So I took the audition in October, and now I'm second officially in the NM Phil and principal in Santa Fe. And I play also with the Opera Southwest Orchestra. They do about 3 productions a year. So it's an interesting life here in New Mexico as a professional trumpet player classically, because you're constantly juggling schedule with NM Phil, Santa Fe Symphony, Opera Southwest, any other gigs that call, and trying to make a season out of it for yourself. And often there are conflicts, so you sort of have to choose. So unfortunately, this year I haven't played a lot with Opera Southwest, although I will be playing this upcoming performance of this Debussy opera that they're doing is really cool.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I've also played off stage and in the orchestra with the Santa Fe Opera, which is an amazing organization, and I'm always honored to be a part of that as well.
I bet that is absolutely amazing. So now you were also, and I say were in the past tense, you were a professor at University of New Mexico at UNM. So now I know you said you stepped down from that position because I'm sure, and we'll get to that here in a little bit, but so what were your duties at UNM when you were juggling Santa Fe and New Mexico Philharmonic and a family and everything else? What were your duties at UNM? Were you teaching trumpet or what?
No, I never taught lessons. That wasn't really what I was hired to do there. So my job at first was I was hired by Glenn Coster to teach Jazz Improv 1. So they do an intro class, Glenn does the intro class, and then they come into Jazz Improv 1, having some knowledge of how to improvise and some knowledge of chord changes and things like that. And we move on and get into more of a bebop style and learning licks and scales and tunes and transcribing. And so that was really fun. I did that starting in probably 2014 for a number of years, and then added into that doing Improv 2 as well, which just was an extension of that. And then Glenn stepped down from doing Jazz 1. Chris Buckholtz, who's an amazing jazz trombonist here in teaching trombone at UNM, stepped into doing Jazz 1 and abdicated his throne of doing Jazz 2. So I said, oh, I'd love to do Jazz Band 2. And that's really where I found working with the students to be very, very fun. I love teaching, but I'm not, I have a degree in it. It was a little bit like unfamiliar, and I really had to work hard to get good at it. So running a rehearsal made more sense to me. I've done so many performances. So like the jazz band was super fun. Plus, like Jazz 2 is generally younger students, maybe less experienced students, but also people who are really hungry and willing to work hard. So we did a lot of really great like Count Basie stuff, Duke Ellington, like things that are classic jazz swing and charts, which I love. And unfortunately, due to circumstances in my life, I just felt like after last semester, it was just too much. And I had to give up something, and that ended up being it, unfortunately.
I understand completely. Trust me, I do. Let's just say I understand your predicament. So you are married to Dr. John Marchiando. I want to say it correctly, Marchiando, who is the principal trumpet player for New Mexico Philharmonic, and he teaches at UNM. And he's also a Shire's performing artist. And so what is that like to be married to another trumpet player who teaches at UNM and has all these things going on. How do you create that work-life balance between the two of you and your family? How, I mean, I'm curious.
It's hard. We get along really well, professionally and romantically. So when we can just separate those two things, it ends up being great. Like, for example, when we're in an orchestra and I'm playing second or third to John, that's my role. Like, I don't have to get wifey on him because that's not what
I'm sorry, but that is hysterical. Okay, keep going.
So I know my role there. It's really important that I stay professional. And that has been something I really find to be easy, actually, because I respect him as a trumpet player and as a leader of the section. So that is totally fine. And at home, we've come to find a balance here too. I will admit, like, it is really hard. We have two kids. We have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And that part of things has changed my role drastically compared to John's, because he works at UNM daily during the week, and then we go to rehearsal. So often I'm sitting here practicing with the kids, screaming and, you know, trying to get my warm up in, trying to get my everything else in, and then also run the household. So it's a constant balancing act, definitely. But I think we found a good balance here, and I feel happy with what we've figured out as a couple.
It sounds to me like you're doing a great job. So now let's talk about something completely different. You have another business venture that I noticed that is kind of, I guess that I looked it up, and it's called Longer Table Woodcrafters. And this is something that you're doing with, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're doing it with your brother, is that correct?
Well, sort of started that way, although he lives in Illinois, so we can't really have business together. But
No.
he's like a silent partner for sure. I call him when I need advice on woodworking and joinery and things like that. Because he's an engineer, so he gets the math part of things, and I'm a creator, so I just like jump in head
Okay,
first.
so what is Longer Table Woodcrafters, and tell me why this is something that's close to your heart.
Yeah. This is a side hustle that has become a real passion for me. And it really got legs when we were in such a dark, torn, the country was so torn in 2020. And then we had the pandemic to deal with. So I started going on walks every morning, long walks, like 3 miles every morning, just to clear my head and see what I could do, get some oxygen, blood flowing, all that stuff. And I just saw, I saw the country divided, and I got really sad. And also, like, during the pandemic, it was all my creative outlet was taken away. I couldn't perform anymore. I wasn't teaching, because at that time I was just doing jazz band, and it went online. And I was like, I'm just going to take a break from this. This doesn't make sense to do it online. I sort of participated in a few of those like online ensemble projects where you just like paste it all together and it sounds like you're in the same room. And so I felt like I needed a way to give back some creativity to the world that was positive and happy and good. And so I thought of this project of originally it was to be a community partner with somebody in the community who needed goods. So like at first it started as I would build step stools, like child step stools for a community partner. And for every piece I sold, I would donate a step stool, that sort of thing. And the name of it, Longer Table Woodcrafters, comes from that quote, "When you have more than you need, build a longer table, not a higher fence." So
okay, now I understand.
Yeah, but it kind of works because it's wood oriented, and so I thought of that name. I thought, this is a cool idea. I want to make this happen. And so I turned it into an LLC. It's just me. I run the thing, I build the things, I send the things, I file the taxes. And
well, all those things are pretty beautiful, because I looked at the webpage, and I mean, besides building some basic things, you have like a whole bunch of mouthpiece holders that you've built that are shelves. You have some really beautiful work on that webpage. I will put a link down below, and it'll link to the actual webpage, and that way people can go to it, and if they're interested, I think it's a great idea. And it's as you said, back then, a year or two ago, we had no creative outlets. Had to find an outlet because all our outlets were gone.
yeah.
So what do you do? And I think what you did was awesome. I showed it to my wife the other day, and she was like, "Can we buy something?" I said, "Well, we can talk about it. Absolutely.
So cool.
I have no problems with that. I don't need a mouthpiece holder. Thank you, though." I don't have that many mouthpieces.
That's okay. Yeah, actually, you just reminded me I need to update the website, because there's a lot of other stuff I've made since then, and I've gotten, it's practice. Practice makes perfect, right? Like I've gotten a lot of practice in the shop, and that was part of it too, was how could I make something productive for me that is also productive for the world? You know?
Oh, and you use a lot of reclaimed and recycled wood, right?
Yep, primarily, yep.
Okay. Yeah, because I think it's great. I think it's wonderful what you're doing. And if well, we'll go on from there. I know that I've like I said, I showed it to my wife, and she was extremely interested. So you may get an order soon from us.
Okay.
So now you are a Shires performing artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said that correctly. Shires. So Shires is very much a classical trumpet. It's a wonderful instrument. I have never played one. What particular model? I mean, I'm sure you have more than one trumpet, because classical players, we require a B flat and a C and a D, E flat and everything else. But what is your primary instrument? Which one do you play on?
So I primarily play B flat and C.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I have the AF model B flat, which is the French bead bell. And I will be honest with you, I'm not an equipment person. I just
Okay.
find what works, and it feels really good. That trumpet has served me well, and I warm up on B flat, so that, and do etudes and all of that stuff on B flat. So that feels really good. My C trumpet is newer to me, and that's a 401 model, and that trumpet feels to me like if Bach had a child trumpet with a Yamaha. So if they combine the two, so you get the flexibility and sound variation of a Bach with the consistency of a Yamaha. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So besides your B flat and your C, I take it you own a piccolo, you own an E flat. Are they all Shires instruments? Like John? I mean, John, I saw his collection the other day, and I was like, oh my Lord.
This is one of the perks of being married to another classical trumpet player. We rarely need E flat at the same time. We rarely need piccolo at the same time. So we share those Shires, but I also have my own that, of course, having collected through grad school and stuff, I have a Schilke E flat that's really great, and I have a Schilke BG conversion, the Butler Geyer. It basically adds a thumb slide and a third valve slide conversion. That's the Schilke as well, and they're both great horns. I think Schilke makes great small trumpets for my needs. But like I said, I think last fall there was the first time we both needed an E flat, where I was playing the chocolate solo in the Nutcracker performance, and you play that on E flat trumpet, and then he was playing like an Phil Pops like Christmas thing that called for that piece too. And so we were like, wait, which? And I think John had lent his other E flat. Somehow we didn't. Oh wait, maybe we don't have a Shires. We don't have a Shires E flat. That's what he wants.
Oh, I get it.
So anyway, but long story short, I do have a Frankenstein E flat that Charles Schluter made for me when I was in grad school, and John ended up playing that on his gig, and sounded great. So like it was like rarely do we need two. So that's what it was. We have one E flat. We have the Schilke that we share. John's been trying to talk me into getting the Shires because it's really good, but he ended up getting the piccolo first. So yeah, those are fun conversations. Hey, I think we need not
Yeah,
we
we.
need a new Shire's trumpet. He just got a new Shire's cornet. You can ask him about that.
I saw the picture of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I saw the picture of that. I saw because he posted something on I swear it was Facebook or something, and he had all the horns out.
Yep.
And they were all in, and I was like, oh my Lord, I wish. The point. What about mouthpieces? What do you play? What do you play on a mouthpiece?
Well, I play a picket mouthpiece. And yeah, for most of my playing, I kind of need something that's able to get up and be a bright and brilliant in the upper register, but also honk the low notes out for second trumpet. And so I play what's equivalent to like a 3C Bach.
Okay.
I know a lot of orchestral players play really, really big equipment, especially mouthpieces, but when I've tried to do that, it just doesn't work for me. My sound concept is already slightly darker than most people's, and so if I have equipment that helps me to brighten it up, that's really helpful, especially in the low range. So yeah, I play it's a 2C 25 throat picket, which is like a 3C Bach, and then for like more leaded stuff, which like lead for us is like, you know, not lead big band lead, but
no, I understand.
Anything above like a C on C trumpet, you know, high C on C trumpet. If I'm sitting up there for a while and I need to like have it be easier, I'll use like a 5. I think it's a 5 CD. So that's more like a 5 rim, and that seems to be a little bit more helpful when I
Very nice. So what else is coming up for you? What do you have? What performances? What do you have coming up? Anything in particular you want to share with everybody that you've got coming up?
No, I mean, our normal season with N and Phil and Santa Fe Symphony, and then like I said, the opera with Opera Southwest. We start rehearsals for that tonight, so that should be that's pretty much it for me. I don't do a lot of other work. I'm sad to not be playing jazz as much, but like we talked about earlier, it just wouldn't fit in my schedule right now. Maybe when my kids are a little older, I can stay out till midnight and get up at 6 a.m. and feel okay. But right now I try to so yeah, so that's basically it for me. And you know, any of my free time goes towards free time, right? Like taking care of my family and doing the longer table wood work that I have, and honestly that fills it up. And so yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. I want to thank Brynn for joining me today. I want to thank her for her time. I want to thank her for her energy, and I want to thank you very, very much for all the wonderful work that you do here in the New Mexico area, and specifically with New Mexico Philharmonic and the new Santa Fe Symphony, and as you said, with Opera Southwest. Thank you very, very much, and we will see you guys next time.